The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. In the sleepy little town of St. Petersburg, Missouri, nestled along the wide, lazy Mississippi River, the summer sun beat down on a world alive with the hum of cicadas and the dreams of boys. Here, in the 1840s, lived Tom Sawyer, a boy with a head full of schemes and a heart bursting with adventure. Tom was no saint. His Aunt Polly, who raised him alongside his half-brother Sid and cousin Mary, could attest to that. With his tousled hair, freckled face, and knack for trouble, Tom was the terror of the schoolhouse and the hero of every boy's imagination. One fine morning, Aunt Polly caught Tom sneaking jam from the pantry, his fingers sticky with guilt. Quick as a fox, he scrambled over the fence, leaving her scolding the air. Punishment loomed, but Tom's mind was already elsewhere, on pirates, robbers, and the glories of a life unbound. That Saturday, as penance for his latest mischief, Aunt Polly set him to whitewashing the long fence in front of their house. The task was torture for a boy whose soul craved freedom, but Tom, ever cunning, turned it into triumph. With a sly grin, he convinced his friends, Ben Rogers, Billy Fisher, and others, that whitewashing was a privilege, a rare art. By noon, the fence gleamed with 3 coats of whitewash, and Tom's pockets bulged with treasures: marbles, a kite string, a dead rat on a string. The boys had paid for the honor of doing his work, and Tom swaggered off, king of his own cleverness. School was no better match for Tom's restless spirit. The master, Mr. Dobbins, ruled with a switch, but Tom's pranks, frogs in desks, whispered jokes, kept the classroom buzzing. His heart, though, was snagged by a new girl, Becky Thatcher, with her golden curls and blue eyes. Tom's love was instant, fierce, and theatrical. He showed off for her, scrawling, "I love you" on his slate, only to be crushed when she rebuffed him. But Tom was not one to stay down long. When Becky accidentally tore a page in Mr. Dobbins' anatomy book, Tom took the blame, earning a whipping but winning her gratitude, and a shy, sweet smile that set his heart soaring. Tom's world was not all schoolyard crushes and small-town antics. Adventure called, and he answered with his best friend, Joe Harper, and the ragged, free-spirited Huckleberry Finn, son of the town drunk. Huck was everything Tom admired, untamed, unwashed, and unbound by rules. One night, the 3 boys slipped away to Jackson's Island, a wild speck in the Mississippi, to live as pirates. They built a fire, smoked corncob pipes, and swore oaths of freedom, their voices echoing under the stars. For days they fished, swam, and reveled in their escape, unaware that the town mourned them as drowned. When Tom, ever the showman, snuck back to St. Petersburg and overheard Aunt Polly's grief, he hatched a plan. The boys returned during their own funeral, striding into church to the gasps and cheers of the congregation. Tom basked in the glory, though Aunt Polly's tearful scolding followed close behind. But darker currents ran through Tom's adventures. One moonlit night, he and Huck crept to the graveyard, clutching a dead cat meant to cure warts by superstition's decree. Hidden among the tombstones, they witnessed a horror. Injun Joe, a fearsome outcast, and Muff Potter, a drunken Ennear-well, were robbing a grave under Dr. Robinson's orders. A quarrel erupted, and Injun Joe turned on the doctor, stabbing him dead while Muff lay unconscious. When Muff awoke, Injun Joe pinned the murder on him, and the boys, frozen with fear, swore a blood oath to keep silent. Muff was jailed, and guilt gnawed at Tom, but the terror of Injun Joe's vengeance sealed his lips. Life rolled on, but the shadow of that night lingered. Tom and Huck, bound by their secret, grew restless. Becky Thatcher, meanwhile, spurned Tom after a spat over his brief engagement to Amy Lawrence, a former flame. Heartbroken, Tom threw himself into new schemes. With Huck and Joe Harper, he hunted for buried treasure, digging under haunted houses and dead trees, guided by tall tales and superstition. Their quest led them to a crumbling old house, where they overheard Injun Joe and a partner plotting to hide a sack of silver coins. The boys' eyes gleamed. Here was real treasure. But Injun Joe, suspicious, moved the loot to a secret spot under the cross, leaving Tom and Huck empty-handed and wary. Tom's conscience, meanwhile, wrestled with Muff Potter's fate. As Muff's trial neared, Tom's guilt overcame his fear. He took the stand, testifying that Injun Joe was the true killer. The courtroom erupted, and Injun Joe leaped through a window, vanishing into the night. Muff was freed, and Tom was hailed as a hero, but dread clung to him. Injun Joe was still out there, and his eyes promised revenge. Summer brought a new adventure to lighten Tom's heart. When Becky Thatcher's mother planned a picnic for the children, Tom and his friends boarded a ferry to McDougal's Cave, a vast labyrinth of tunnels beyond the river. The day was bright with games and laughter, but Tom and Becky, exploring the cave, strayed too far. As their candle flickered out, they realized they were lost. The town searched frantically, but hope faded. Inside the cave, Tom and Becky wandered, hungry and scared, their voices echoing in the dark. Tom's courage held firm. He rationed their meager cake and used a kite string to mark their path. Days passed, and despair crept in, until Tom glimpsed a figure in the distance. It was Injun Joe, hiding in the cave. Tom froze, but Injun Joe fled, and Tom kept the sighting to himself, shielding Becky's fragile hope. At last, Tom's persistence paid off. Following a faint draft, he found a tiny exit, and he and Becky emerged, weak but alive, to the joy of St. Petersburg. The town celebrated, and Judge Thatcher, Becky's father, declared the cave's mouth sealed with an iron door to prevent future tragedies. Tom, recovering at home, mentioned seeing Injun Joe inside. When the cave was reopened weeks later, Injun Joe's body was found near the door, starved and dead, his knife broken from futile attempts to dig free. Tom's relief was tinged with awe at the man's grim end. The cave held one final secret. Tom, recalling Injun Joe's treasure, convinced Huck to return with him. Using Tom's memory of the cave's tunnels, they found the spot under the cross, a rock marked with a soot cross, where a chest of gold coins, over $12,000 worth, lay hidden. The boys hauled their fortune to town, and St. Petersburg buzzed with their tale. Widow Douglas, a kind soul who had taken Huck under her wing, invested the money for them, making Tom and Huck rich beyond their wildest dreams. But wealth changed little for Tom. He still dreamed of robbers and pirates, forming a gang with Huck, Joe Harper, and others, swearing oaths in a secret cave hideout. Huck, uneasy with the widow's efforts to civilize him, ran off briefly, but Tom coaxed him back, promising adventure within the bounds of their new lives. And so, in St. Petersburg, the summer days rolled on, filled with the laughter of boys, the shimmer of the Mississippi, and the endless mischief of Tom Sawyer, whose heart would always belong to the wild, free world of childhood.